You know what I was thinking about today?
What?
Do you remember movie tie-in songs in the 90s?
Kissed by a Rose on the Grave.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Will Smith's Wild Wild West.
Uh-huh.
LL Cool J's Deepest Bluest. My hat is like a shark's fin. I think we need to bring those back.
I agree.
I think it's a lost art. And just for a second, imagine how much better Midnight Mass would be if LL Cool J was like,
Uh-huh.
holiest, mightiest.
Okay.
My hat is like a pope's hat. Right?
Not necessarily the direction I thought we were going to go with this, but yeah, okay.
Hello and welcome to Flanagan's Wake, a Doof Media podcast nearer my God to Mike Flanagan. My name is Scott Daly, and joining me as always, we're just going to take a little walk down to the beach and enjoy the sunrise together. It's Matt Freeman. How's it going today, Matt?
Just you and me on the beach together.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
I killed my boys.
It's sad.
I'm sorry.
Sad.
I made it too real. I'm sorry. This week on the show, somehow already we have reached the end of Mike Flanagan's Midnight Mass. It is time. It is here, Matt, the final episode, episode 7, Revelation. On the 7th day, he rested, but on the 7th episode, he just fucking wrote the shit out of it, right?
Yeah.
Right?
He just crushed it. Yeah.
Holy shit. Yeah, this is going to be a fun one, Matt. There's so many things to talk about. I am excited. I am very excited. How was your revisit of the finale of the show?
You know, it was amazing. I think it affected me more than I thought it would, right? I think like whenever you rewatch something, you feel like, you know, I'm calibrated to how this is going to hit me because I've seen it before. But the ending of the episode and, you know, the ending of the show, it just ties together all these things we've been talking about over these weeks. So it's entirely possible that it hit me even harder than it did the first time I saw it because of, again, all this time we've been spending cogitating and feeling all these things, you know, together in these conversations.
Yeah. I mean, I think you used the term like clockwork several times in the first few episodes. And that's all I kept thinking about at the end was just like endings are hard, right? Like sticking the landing is a hard thing to do. Paying off everything and every character in a ensemble show like this is not easy. And I think this show pulls off every single moment from the opening of the show, of the episode until the credits roll. He's pulling it off. It's incredible. It was an incredible experience. I watched this episode 5 times. And partially that was because we got a little delayed in our recording. So recording a little bit late. So I had a little bit of extra time. And so I watched it more. And yeah, every single time I found something else to love and appreciate and enjoy about how this team wrapped up this truly incredible show. So it was great.
Yep. Awesome.
Before we get into the detail of the show, I did want to give you an opportunity, Matt, to comment on the news that broke this week. I know by the time people are listening to this, it'll be old news and nobody will care anymore. But it was announced on Monday, Tuesday. I don't know days anymore. It was announced on a day that Mike Flanagan's next project, or one of his upcoming projects, is going to be an adaptation of Stephen King's The Mist. Now, I hopped on a microphone at like midnight and recorded a thing that we released on our Patreon. So for some reason you haven't listened to that yet, it's for free on our Patreon. Go ahead on over there, subscribe for free, and you can listen to it. But I wanted to just give you the opportunity, Matt, to comment on this news.
I mean, I'm psyched. Kind of like we just talked about a bit ago regarding the Carrie adaptation. I'm sure it's going to be totally different from the existing Mist adaptation.
Yeah.
In ways that are if anything, more up my alley. You know, I got nothing against the Darabont adaptation, but I've talked before about how much I really like the way Flanagan deals with darkness. And the interesting thing about The Mist is that, I mean, sure, there's probably going to be plenty of opportunities for darkness to come into play.
Sure.
But also there's the literal, you know, the mist, right? there's a whole nother sort of conceit that he can play with, where it's like there's stuff in the mist and you can't see it. That sounds like I just can't wait to see kind of how he interprets that and what he does with that.
Sure.
Just from a purely visual point of view, and then we say there's going to be your standard deep, nuanced, and emotional treatment of the characters, and I'm sure we're going to love that too.
How do you feel about, like, I think the one through line I've seen is everyone's like, well, clearly Samantha Sloyan is going to be playing Mrs. Carmody, which does make a certain amount of sense, right? There is a part of me that's just like, this woman is fantastic, and she's so good at doing this thing, and if she wants to keep doing this thing, more power to her. But I also, just for her sake, would like her to get to do different things as well, because we got Bev Keane, she's got Margaret White coming up, and then it's just like, I don't want someone to feel typecast unless that's what they want. So, I mean, it's obviously going to be her choice at the end of the day, but I don't know. What do you think, Samantha Sloyan?
I mean, you're right that it's sort of like, can easily see her in that role, know she would be great in that role, already mad about it, just like we said about Carrie. But all, you know, it's funny, there's a perverse part of me that wants to see him like cast everyone off type just for fun, you know.
Sure.
Put Kate Siegel in that role. just
sounds great.
Just move it all around. I mean, because that's the thing, is these are all great actors, and like that's what being an actor is being able to do different things. So
yeah, I'm actually really excited to see. I have this horribly inaccurate and without evidence hypothesis that Samantha Sloyan is Margaret White, but the Margaret White in this upcoming Carrie adaptation is going to be a completely different version of the character. So everyone's like, of course, Samantha Sloyan as Margaret White, and then it's not going to be like a Bev Keane type thing at all. It's probably not going to happen, but there's part of me that would just absolutely love that.
Yeah, that would be fun, but also it would be fun if it were just kind of the way we are expecting implicitly.
Yeah. To wet your whistle slightly, Samantha Sloyan does play a character in The Midnight Club, the show that we're going to be talking about after this one, and it is a little bit off type from this kind of stuff.
Okay,
I think you're going to enjoy it. All right, yeah. I think we're both excited about The Mist. If you want to hear more of my thoughts, I think I rambled on for like 20 minutes, Matt. I don't know how I did that just by myself. But if you want to hear more of my thoughts, please make sure you head on over to our Patreon. That's patreon.com/doofmedia. Like I said, we didn't like paywall that. You can subscribe for free and listen to it. I don't even think you need to subscribe to listen to it. It's just there publicly. So yeah, patreon.com/doofmedia to listen to that if you haven't already.
Cool.
All right, Matt, let's get into it. Midnight Mass, Book 7, Revelation. This episode was written for television by Mike Flanagan. I did just want to shout out the staff writers here in the final episode. We haven't mentioned any of their names yet, but there was a writer's room for the show, and I just want to make sure they get some credit too. So that's Danny Parker, Joyce Sherry, and Teresa Sutherland were members of the writing staff as well. This episode was once again directed and edited by Mike Flanagan, and once again, Michael Fimagnari was our director of photography. All right, Matt, where do you want to begin? Revelation. I just want to say, another thing I got to do in the extra day that I had was I read the book of Revelation again. And let me tell you.
Of course.
Let me tell you, Matt.
Tell me.
It's fucking crazy.
A lot of stuff in there, huh?
Yeah.
And any strong takeaways?
Honestly, just rip it out of the Bible and like here's my suggestion. Catholicism, Pope, are you listening, Pope? Get rid of it. Just get it out of there. It's not doing anyone any favors. And it, like, honestly, just put a hyperlink in the back of the Bible that links to this episode, because it's a much better revelation than the book of Revelation.
Okay.
I mean, what Mike said on the interview I thought was so funny. Like, his critique of the Bible was not just, I don't believe in these things, but like, it's like a bad story.
Yeah.
And like that's all I could think about while reading Revelation is like this doesn't flow. This doesn't make sense. This is a terrible climax to your book. None of this makes any sense. It's wild. It's the 7 seals, and then but the seals make a third of the water go away, and the third of the earth, and a third of the sun. But then later, like a bowl is poured that like ignites the sun. But is it the 2/3 of the sun that's remaining part of the sun? And also, I couldn't keep track of how many people had been killed so far, because at one point a third of the people get drowned, but then at a different point another third of the people have something else. It's just ridiculously hard to follow.
Is it like a third of the ones who are left after the first third, or is it a third?
Look, man,
interesting.
I don't think our boy John was really thinking about that when he threw this one together.
Yeah, there's a lot of early Christian stuff where like people are just saying stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Like all the stuff about demonology that's not even actually in the Bible, but sort of like became canonized in the Christian tradition nonetheless. Yeah. And it's like this sort of sounds like that, except it made it into the Bible for whatever reason.
Yeah, honestly, so it's written by a guy named John, who's like exiled on an island called Patmos. And so it's written by John of Patmos. And I swear to God, I thought that this was John the Apostle. Like anytime, like, yes, John, the Apostle John wrote Revelation, but apparently no. That, like I mentioned last week, every single investigation into these books of the Bible I've had over these past 7 weeks has been like, yeah, people thought it was this guy, but like I think this one was the validity of this was argued as early as the 11th century, and by the 17th century, it had become basically accepted, but that this was a different John from John the Apostle and from John the Baptist, who of course was dead by that point. So it's just some guy named John living on an island, probably doing some drugs, saying he got a vision from God, and here it is. Here's the vision.
I mean, the funny thing about the naming John is that the name is probably like Yohanan or something.
Sure, yeah.
I'm looking at it, but anyway. Yeah, doing drugs, and I mean, a lot of early Christianity, there was a lot of weird stuff that would now be considered to be heretical, sort of delving into what's the name, Gnosticism and other cultish type things. It's very interesting, obviously, but
it's so weird because that book starts off so normal, where it's just like, hey, I'm John. It literally has a prologue to it. It's like, hey, okay. I'm John. An angel came to me. He showed me all this stuff. I'm just going to let you know what it is. And then he starts it off with the angel told me to write these letters to all these churches. And so I did that. And like the letters are all like from Jesus being recorded by John. And he's like, hey, y'all are doing great at this and great at this, but I got some notes, church. And it's like listing of stuff that they're not doing very well. And that's all like chill and normal. And then it goes, and then next I got to see this. And it's just like, suddenly there's like beasts and bowls and seals and fire. And it's just like, whoa.
Okay. Whoa. So must reemphasize the degree to which we're not biblical scholars, but I have heard or read rather stuff about how like a lot of the stuff that's happening in Revelation is probably intended as some kind of political allegory or like a reference to things that people in that time period would understand.
Probably, yeah.
Where it's like the beast with the whatever number of horns. It's like, oh yeah, he's referencing that kingdom over there and how they're gonna eat shit when Jesus comes back. And it's like, well, Jesus didn't come back for way longer than John thought, apparently. Yeah. So that kingdom isn't around, and that reference doesn't make sense to us anymore.
Oh, certainly. Like, yeah, I mean, we can move on to talk about the actual show in a minute. I just find this very fascinating. But
it is.
No. I think like the structure of the thing is just like, here's a list of churches that aren't doing a very good job, and then immediately after that, here's what's going to happen when Jesus returns and the world ends. And it's like, so it's like, here's my critique, and then here's the consequence, right? And it's very, very transparent there of like, I think it's trying to be overblown and scary because they're trying to like kind of scare people into doing what they're supposed to be doing. But yeah, I mean, there's tons of references that I'm sure go over most people. I think the funniest part is when we get to like the Whore of Babylon and all that, like up until that point, there's been imagery and metaphor and all this stuff mixed in. And then when we get to the Whore of Babylon, the angel that is relaying this vision to John starts explaining the metaphor to him. It's like, and this is a metaphor for, and all these hills over there, those are a metaphor for cities. And like, it's just like explaining, like the metaphor is explained to him, which is really funny considering like none of the other imagery up until that point was explained, but he defines this metaphor of these hills, and these represent these kings, and the whore herself is representative of Babylon, and it makes it very clear in the text, like this is what I mean when I say these things. I just thought that was humorous.
That is interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then Jesus returns. Yeah.
Yep.
His return was imminent, it says in Revelation. What's time to an eternal being, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Let's get into the better Revelation. Midnight Mass episode 7. Gosh, where do we begin, Matt? It's every bit of it is good. Every single bit.
Yeah. It's incredible. It's an incredible episode. We have said basically every episode, like, this is the best one yet, and then it culminates in this one, which is just loaded with great moments. I guess, I want to touch back on what you said a few minutes ago, where you were talking about how everything ties together. And I'm especially thinking about this because I continue to do my, first time watch with my daughter as I am watching the episodes for this show. So I'm sort of doing 2 staggered rewatches, one of which is with a different person, which is causing me to see things in a different way, which is always fun. But just mention that to say, like, it's very cool to see how tightly all these threads that are culminating in these fantastic character moments in this final episode are so precisely and efficiently laid from the first episode. And everyone has their through line, and it's so organic, right? Like that's one thing. Like when you're watching even really good TV, very often you're kind of aware. You can't help but be aware of the fact that the show is keeping all of the character threads moving in a way that's calculated, and it feels a little calculated. And this show, for whatever reason, it never feels calculated. It always just seems like, and then our attention naturally and organically moves over here, and now we're following Aaron, and now Riley, and now Father Paul, and now Riley's parents, and at no point does it feel forced or inorganic. And that's a statement I think that blankets over the whole show, but I think everything has so deftly built toward these moments without feeling like anything was being constructed. That's the real magic trick. That's really the amazing things about this show is like, the real skill is making it look easy.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I'm watching a lot of the Olympics right now, and that's kind of what professional athletes do, right? Like you see this ice skater do this like incredible routine. Like this guy, I forget his name, but there's this United States figure skater who like can do a quad spin that like literally nobody else in the world can do. And you see him do it, and it's just like beautiful and effortless looking, but it's like the hardest thing in the world that nobody can do. And that's, I think that's what true greatness is sometimes, that like this episode makes this thing look easy, but it is this intricate layering and controlled like build from thing A to thing B, and this but or therefore causal move through the entire show that makes that feel organic and effortless. It is incredible. I think a micro example of this is, and this is something small and insignificant, but I think it shows in micro what you're talking about in macro, is we have this moment with Erin where she gets bit by the vampire and he's drawing her blood, and then this is the moment where she like takes the knife and is like slowly cutting at his wings. And like in this moment, we're not asking, hey, why is he letting her do that? Because the show has very cleverly put a scene just a few scenes before this one in which Lisa and Warren see the vampire feeding inside the house, and shoot at it multiple times and see how it just like doesn't give a shit about the bullets. And like it perfectly, without us even realizing it in the moment, establishes this fact that when this thing is so focused on feeding, when it is so focused on doing on the bloodlust of eating someone, it just doesn't give a shit about anything else. And it really hasn't had to, because it can't die. And it like it's like a predator with no predator of its own, and so it doesn't have to worry or think about that thing. And that's just like, I think that's, again, it's a microcosm of what you're saying. The whole show does this, but I love that in this little moment you don't even realize that's happening, and then it's like, oh yeah, of course we're not questioning why the vampire is behaving this way in this extremely emotional, huge payoff moment for Aaron, because that got set up for us, and that's everything in the show does this.
Yeah. And set up in a way that itself felt organic and highly dramatic too. Like when they stumble upon the vampire in the house where it killed Bull and it killed at least one other person. I think my TV is turned down too dark. I couldn't see if we were supposed to recognize who that was or not. I think
it's just another resident. I didn't recognize them either.
Yeah. But in any case, like, that's a fantastic scene on its own merits. But then you're right that it's also setting up this later thing.
Yeah. A special shout out to our listener, Jonalith, who pointed this out. The lighter that is used to light the vampire on fire in this scene is a lighter that has appeared in multiple Flanagan properties. We saw this lighter in Hill House, and then again in Bly Manor, it was the lighter that Peter Quint used as well. So that's, along with our mirror, is another recurring prop from these stories.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it.
I didn't catch that myself, but yeah.
I didn't, although now, like, as soon as you say that, I can like see him doing the lighter, and it's like a big lighter, you know?
Yeah.
That's very cool. So speaking of just like things that I think were very subtly laid out for us, there's just one character who I want to talk about, who is, you know, one of the non-central characters, but it is a character we did talk about last week, which is Annie. And I maybe, I don't know why I'm so hung up on wanting to talk about Annie. I think it may just simply be the fact that I kind of forgot about this incredible moment that she gets in this episode. Like, I remember the show pretty well from watching it the first time, but that was just a moment that I wasn't even looking forward to it because I forgot that it happened.
Yeah.
And then it happens, and Annie is such an interesting character where she's so like human and grounded, and many aspects of her are relatable, where she's just, we talked about her before, where it's like she's just really like just really counting on God to come through for her and make things better for her.
Yeah. To the point where I think she like could not fully see and understand everything that her son did. I think the difference between Ed and Annie when it came to Riley was Ed couldn't deal with what Riley did, and Annie was not at all dealing with what Riley did.
Yeah. And last episode, she had this moment where she like shoves, was it last episode? Yeah, it was early last episode. She shoves Aaron, and she's rejecting this, and it was, you know, it was a down moment for her. You have to give your characters these failures so that they can rise above their own choices.
Yeah.
And in this episode, it's just such a beautiful, it's just grace. It's like she's accepted what has happened to her family, to her life, to her hopes, and she makes this fantastic, awesome, like it's the closest, it's like an action scene, but it's like understated, where she slashes her throat, and it's like cool, but it's also like just raw and poignant, and laden with all of this dread and emotion, and then it all wraps up for her in this beautifully, like, still she's kept her faith through all of this.
Yeah.
And she's the one who starts the singing at the end. I was just like, man, I forgot that Annie is such a core component of sort of the structure of this episode.
I agree. She's remarkable. Every little bit of her. And I love, like, her journey through the show has been great. Her journey through the episode, I think, is pretty great too, because you're right. Like, we start with everyone's gathered in Aaron Green's house and they're talking about what happened, and they're passing out weapons, and she's like, no, this isn't the way. What is this going to do? This isn't going to do anything. This isn't the way. And then she says a line that I just love, because she said, never made much sense to me. We all say there's a heaven. It's waiting for us. Then we claw, fight, and beg for a few more minutes at the end. And I love this as, like, maybe the first moment that the show has allowed us to see that, hey, even a devout believer like Annie Flynn has some doubts sometimes, or some things that don't add up in her mind of how our behavior doesn't match what we believe sometimes. And, like, I love that we get to see that little bit of her. And maybe she is in this moment kind of having her own little crisis of faith, right? She's just, her son is dead. Her church has just murdered the entire town. People are rampaging through the streets, yanking people out of their houses and killing them. And maybe she is having her own crisis of faith of, like, what is going on here? And then she kind of steadies herself, settles herself, and then goes and confronts Beverly Keane. Which, you're right that the moment where she stabs herself is a wonderful moment, but the moments leading up to that, I think, are just as good. The moment of you're not a good person.
You aren't
Bev.
a good person.
God doesn't love you more than anybody else. You aren't a hero, and you certainly aren't a victim. Like,
that was uncalled for.
That's awesome. And, like, I love, like, you've needed to hear this your entire life, Beverly Keane. And Bev's reaction to that is like being slapped across the face.
Aren't a victim.
And then Bev tries to turn it around and say, yeah, well, you're one to talk. Your son was a murderer and an alcoholic. And this is, I think, the moment of kind of Annie's transcendence is like, you're right. Like, she I think this is something, and I don't think the show ever really says this, but I think Annie never fully processed what her son did. Like, even in the episode where Riley says goodbye to her, what ends up being the last time they see each other, she's saying, when what happened, and Riley is like, no, what I did. And she's like, yes, what you did, right? And she doesn't want to think about it. She wants to push that off. And this is a moment of her accepting the quote is, every part of him, the good parts, the wonderful parts, and the bad parts, the negative parts, every part of him is because of me. And God loves every single part of him, and he loves him as much as he loves you, Bev, as much as he loves anyone. And I don't understand why that drives you so crazy.
Check her back.
And that's such and then it's culminated by her taking her own life, technically, right? Like a mortal sin in Christianity and Catholicism.
Yeah. I want to return to what you said, but I also want to nail that point where I feel like that moment was like a writing lesson for me, because part of me wanted to see Annie, like, slash her throat and then, like, stand up and have, like, a badass vampire fight with Bev. and I think that I knew, I think that I knew by this point in my first watch that was not the kind of show that this was. But it was like, no, it was even smarter and, like, better and like cooler in a way, where it's like, no, she's just slowing them down by shedding her blood so that they start feeding on her. And I was just like, wow, that's such a more, and, like, that's such a more Christian way of doing that too, where it's like, I'm just going to give my life to slow you down. I'm not going to fight. Annie totally rejected the idea of, like, soldiers of God and all this, and it's this being a war. It's like, no, it's not. I'm just like a Christian. She's going to turn the other cheek. She's just going to give them her blood, and that's going to slow them down, and that's going to give the rest of the team enough time to run away. Yeah,
and it perfectly lays the groundwork for this very Tolkienian, very Kingian evil destroys itself that I think we will see throughout the rest of this episode, and I'm sure we'll talk about again before we're done this week. Yeah, I love it. It's a great moment.
Before we move on from Annie, though, and the back and forth, like that, this is in many ways, the show is saying a lot of stuff, so I don't want to say it's like a concluding statement of the whole show, but in many ways it's a concluding statement on a lot of the stuff the show has been doing, where, you know, Annie has been trying so hard to be a good Christian, so has her husband, but they have really struggled in similar ways to the way Riley has struggled. Riley has struggled with like he lived this moment at complete odds with the existence of a loving God, to paraphrase what he said to Aaron. And they have lived a moment at odds with being able to fully love their son.
Yeah.
Which is very painful for them. And that's why they have sort of, in their own different ways, sort of not accepted that.
Yeah.
They've sort of kept that at arm's length. And like you said, this is the crucial moment where Annie realizes, like, God loves us with all of our mistakes and all our sins. And so I love my son, and that is including and accepting his mistakes. And how could it be otherwise? And that's her last act, right? It's fantastic.
Yeah, and I think there's something poetic, and I don't even know if intentional, but I think it's very poetic that this conversation and this confrontation is happening on the porch of Aaron Green's house, where in the first episode, Aaron and Riley had that conversation where he basically said, I am lost. I have no purpose. I don't know what to do. I can't figure it out. And kind of where he really saw for the first time the extent at which Riley is completely lost within himself and who he is, and this declarative moment by his mother in the same exact spot of, you are a child of God. I love you. You are loved no matter what. It doesn't matter what you've done. It doesn't, like, you are, like, I think that's just ultimately like a great kind of close the loop of that initial conversation in the very first episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then, like, I guess we'll continue on, like, when she bumps into Ed. I love that moment. First of all, I love the inversion of the thing that you see in like when in any other show or movie, when like you see someone covered in blood, you would say, don't worry, it's not mine.
Uh-huh.
But in this show, they both say to each other, don't worry, it's all mine.
Yeah, I love it.
Just really good.
Yeah. Oh, me too. Yeah.
But
I love it. It's the closest thing to a joke in this episode. Yeah.
Yeah. But it is a very important declarative statement on what these vampires are, right? Because basically we've been running with the argument that the show presented to us, which is that this is a feeling and something that is perhaps at times almost impossible to resist, right? We saw Riley kind of put in a situation where Bev Keane's neck is put right in front of him and he needs to be restrained in order to do it. So this idea that the bloodlust comes on you and there's nothing you can do, and we're watching these rational, good people of Crockett Island rampage across the island murdering people, and then Ed and Annie meet and are like, is this what's going to happen to us? Are we going to turn into these animals? And Ed says very simply,
whatever this is,
it don't change who
don't change who you are.
And I think that is another, like, I think this episode is just like declarative statement after declarative statement, which makes sense because it's the finale. But I think that's a very important defining statement of everything that's happening here. That, like, the idea that this is unable to be resisted is perhaps false. It is perhaps people allowing this thing to take control of them. Whereas Ed doesn't. Annie doesn't. Ali, we see, doesn't. Riley did not either.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. It's a matter of, like, just because you have been told that you're entitled to do these things doesn't mean that you believe that or accept that, or you know, you still have a moral core at the heart of you. You don't believe that, you know, when God's mind changes, morality changes.
Yeah, exactly.
You're they're just good people, right? And they've been faithful all these years. I really am interested in the fact that, like, we've had some critical and harsh things to say about the Flynns over these episodes, and I think the show has provided us with ammunition to say, like, hey, they should have moved on. They should have realized, like, hey, God is not going to bring the fish back into your nets. You need to figure something else out, guys. Like, prayer is not the answer here. Action is the answer. But it's interesting to look at this all in the end, and really we can zoom out from this, and we can say this about many elements of the story. It's interesting to take everything in its totality and say, no, actually, maybe they were doing exactly what they were supposed to do, and maybe their steadfastness and quiet faith put them in a position where they're still on Crockett Island, scrounging a meager living, but basically being happy. Basically, not super happy, but happy. And that way, Riley Flynn comes back home to them after he does this terrible thing. And Erin Green also has to come back home because of her own misfortune that, in a way, turns out to be a silver lining for her because it kind of saves her soul.
Sarah Gunning has to come back home to take care of her ailing mother.
Exactly.
Sheriff Hassan moves here because he is ostracized by racist police officers. Yeah, it's almost as if something is calling all these people here to this moment.
Something is calling all these gunslingers together to be the hero that they need to be in this critical moment to fight evil. I definitely, after I made the connection to Desperation, the Stephen King novel, I was just like, oh shit, this is so lines up with like that concept, like not the plot of that novel, but like that conception of the way God works, where it's like, this is not going to be pleasant for anyone involved.
Yeah.
But sometimes you've got to fight evil, and evil sucks, and it needs to be fought, and the fight can be very costly, but them's the breaks.
Yeah. I mean, it is a very dissatisfying answer to a question when if the argument being made here is that Riley murdered a teenager so he would end up back on this island at the right time to do the right thing and kick things in motion that ultimately defeat this force that would have overrun the earth, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That sucks. And there's lots of you sitting out there listening right now that are like, wait a minute, how could a loving God couldn't he just like stop Father Paul and say, no, don't do that? And you're like, that's not really how any of this operates. And I'm not like defending God in this hypothetical scenario, but like, it's just, it to me, it is endlessly fascinating that the show leaves us with this thing. Cause I think that's something we kind of jokingly asked in the beginning of the show, knowing that we were going to get to this point at the end of the show where it's like, did God bring Riley to Crockett Island? And the answer is kind of, maybe.
It's like, possibly yes, in the same way that it's like possibly the vampirism is a virus,
right?
Yeah.
Well,
and
yeah, I mean, like you and I like to have conversations and arguments about free will, right? The idea is free will real? Is free will an illusion that your consciousness is tricking you into thinking you actually have choices and things? And like my part of the argument is always like, well, if it feels real to me, then what's the difference? In the end, what's the difference from my day-to-day minute-to-minute behavior? And like that's another argument of this whole thing of like, if we're talking about is this a long plan put in motion by a benevolent God, or is this just minute-to-minute choices made by people that lead down a chain that brings them to a place at a certain time? Both, yes, all of the above, right?
Well, and not only does it successfully defeat the evil in a practical level, but like everyone, not literally everyone, but almost everyone gets their redemption. Like in many ways, it's like we all die.
Yeah.
So it's like the manner of your death and the meaning of your life has to matter. It has to go somewhere on the scales. And it's like all of these people, all of our heroes, they gave their lives in a moment where like they got to embrace something powerful. Like Sheriff Hassan and his son get to have this moment of understanding and shared sacrifice, and Annie and her husband get to understand. Like they all kind of they don't necessarily see the whole picture, but they all get this beautiful moment, including Aaron, including Riley 2 episodes ago.
Yeah.
They all get this beautiful moment where like they get to face their death, and they get to accept their death, and they get to know like, hey, I made the right choice. I did the right thing.
Yeah.
And I'm going to die now, and it sucks that I'm going to die now, but I am who I am. Like, it's self-acceptance and it's bravery, and it's just beautiful. And
they get to experience and be part of something greater than themselves, which is whether that is God, Allah, the universe, the cosmos, like, right? It's something, community, family, like it's something that is greater than their individuality, than their self, and they all get to experience it. And so like, I think ultimately this is a show that is just saying, I think it's kind of once again distilled in Aaron's monologue here, right?
So what do you think happens when we die?
So this beautiful monologue that we get about halfway through the episode, I think
Speaking for myself,
towards the end actually, where she is dying,
Speaking for yourself,
and then finds herself back on the couch looking at Riley, who's once again asking her, what happens when you die? And this is kind of taking what Riley said he believes, and it's a version of her image of heaven, but it's expanded beyond that. And I think like this is honestly like the closest the show gets to
the whole problem with
this monologue is Mike Flanagan answering the question, what happens when I die? I really do think so. I think this is where he's gotten to a place. And the message of this is, you basically are one with the universe. There is no sense of self. We are all connected and all part of the same stardust, essentially. And all death is returning to this oneness with everything. And that's like a beautiful message. But I think the other important part of it is all people, all things, all people. Like the ultimate thing of the show is we're all the same. Like that sometimes faith and belief and religion and these things, they divide us, and they divide us into segments and sections. There's the Christians, there's the Muslims, there's the atheists, Democrats, Republicans, like Americans, like we divide and subdivide and space out, and then look at other groups fearfully and with hatred. But the ultimate message is like, but the thing we all have in common, no matter what, is we're all people, and we're all going to die, and we all don't know what happens when that happens. And the underlying message to me is just stop it. Like, love one another.
Yeah.
That's it. Love one another. I mean, and this is ironically an extremely Christian message, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, that's what Jesus said. Like I'm stealing a little bit of thunder from we're going to have a guest on our episode next week, who is a Methodist pastor, one of our longtime listeners. He's going to join us, and we're going to get to pick his brain about all the Christian stuff we got totally wrong over the last 7 weeks. It's going to be a great conversation, but I'm stealing his thunder a bit because he sent me this. Jesus' basically final commandment, the night of the Last Supper, to his disciples is simple. He sits them down. He knows he's going to die tomorrow. All right. I don't think it's tomorrow. He knows he's going to die. His time's almost up. This is the last time he's going to have them all together. And what does he say to them in that moment? What he says to them is, this is my last commandment to you. Love one another as I have loved you. That is how people will know you are my disciples. Very simple. No dogma, no complicated rules, and this, you got to do this. Love one another. That's it. That's it. And that's the show. Mm-hmm. Guys, just love one another.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, you're right. That's what's so beautiful and heartfelt about it. Yeah. And like, that's why, so it's a good thing we talked about all this beautiful stuff, because now I want to talk about Bev. because like Bev in many ways is, this is going to be like technically wrong, I'm sure, but like in some ways she's the protagonist of this episode. And what I mean by that is she's the central character who drives the action.
Sure.
so she's actually the villain of the episode is what's actually the case. But like no one makes more consequential decisions than Bev. And in a sense, Bev might also have the most dramatic arc because she goes from being totally certain that she's right to losing utterly. So Bev is kind of the star of the final episode.
Yeah.
And Bev as a character has become increasingly consequential over the course of the show.
Sure.
To the point where she literally is like, all right, Father, you've become too evil by choosing to not fully endorse vampiric slaughter of the entire world. So get thee behind me, Satan.
Uh-huh.
And it's great. So like Bev is this fantastic counterpoint to all the stuff we just said, where to Bev, the idea of love, she doesn't even understand it, right? Like she's just missing that node in her soul. For her, it's all the dogma, and that's why it's so great when we see her craft these elaborate webs of scripture. Because you just said, like, Jesus was very clear about what he thought was important, and Bev continuously finds ways to bend over backward to find any way she possibly can of avoiding accepting those basic ideas, justifying it using scripture.
Mm-hmm.
And her fanatical interpretation,
yep,
which is really just a self-justifying, self-worshipping interpretation, where she gets to be the hero.
Yeah, and it's all about her ego, and I mean that's why I think Annie Flynn just nails her perfectly. It's like we even talked about this when she's like gloating about how, the day after Ash Wednesday, church is empty again. It was like, oh, because she's better than these people. Because she goes to church. She's a better Christian. She's a better Catholic. Therefore, God loves her more. Therefore, she is more in the favor of the Lord. And that is imperative to her and her whole worldview. The more I thought about the rec center, the more I thought that you were just 100% correct in what you said. I don't think this was money laundering. I don't think she kept any of the money for herself. I think this is all about her and her ego and her feeling that she is more loved by God than anyone else. And that doesn't require her to steal money from anyone. It just requires for her to build a monument to her incredibleness. And that is what the rec center is. And we actually see this in this episode where she has gone into the rec center to make all the beds and lays the pillows down. There's this wonderful moment where she like looks over it with this smile on her face because she's like, yes, this is the culmination of this wonderful thing I did. Look at this wonderful thing I did in the name of God, and he will love me for it. And that's it's so wrapped up into that. And one of the thing the episode does, and it does it through it does it through the Father Paul character, which we'll get to in a bit, but I think it also does it through Bev. And I think you alluded towards this, is this idea that what you actually want, just yourself, selfishly, what you want is what's driving you. And you are just like encasing that in scripture, encasing that in the will of God in order to justify your actions. That is ultimately what Father Paul was doing. And that is, of course, the same thing that Bev is doing. This is what she wants. She wants this. She's always wanted to do this. She's always wanted to punish all the non-believers and to be the one that everyone worships.
That must be you.
Yeah.
Monsignor,
it reminds me of that beautiful moment when Father Paul says it's not supposed to be about me. It's supposed to be about God. And
the way he says that, man, I got goosebumps.
Yeah.
I just like Hamish Linklater. Oh, he's so good.
Yeah, it's great. And that's him rejecting this part of himself that was doing what you said, that was armoring his ego in scripture.
Yeah.
And then that's when Bev turns on him. And he at least, his ending is very tragic, and we feel for him a lot. And we talked about all the other heroic characters and how they were sort of tools of God, but I think he was too, because getting the angel to an isolated island where it cannot possibly escape, it's got to be a huge part of the plan, right?
Sure.
God's plan. If we were just taking him at his word and we say God has a plan and it's very hard to understand, it's like, well, if you want to kill this thing, you got to get it somewhere isolated, and then you got to burn down all the buildings when the sun comes up.
Sure. Yeah.
Anyway,
I agree. I don't want to let him too off the hook though, because I think it's very easy to hate Bev We all hate Bev. Bev sucks, and Bev is responsible for a lot of the bad that happens in this episode. But like, so is Father Paul, right? I actually think there's this really wonderful moment at the very beginning of the episode where we kind of catch up with Paul's like just sitting there on the stage in the church, and Mildred comes and sits down next to him and says,
"Did it hurt you?
Did it hurt you?" And I love the way he says this, like he kind of stumbles over, "Did it hurt you?" And she just goes, "Yes." And like he doesn't even say anything, he just like makes a noise.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there we do a J cut. So for those that don't know, like here's entry level editing terminology. A J cut is just essentially when you stay on a scene visually, but you have already cut to the audio of the next scene. If you put it in like an editing timeline software, it kind of looks like a J, which is why they call it a J cut. An L cut is the opposite. It's the opposite thing. That look on the timeline looks like an L. That's why they call it an L cut. But we do this J cut where we're looking at Father Paul, we're looking at Mildred sitting there, and what we're hearing is the knocking on the doors that then take us into this montage of the vampires yanking people out of their homes, eating them, and like rampaging through the streets and killing everyone. And I think doing this J cut in this way really emphasizes in my mind the show drawing a very real cause and effect chain. This is what you have wrought, Monsignor Pruitt.
Yeah.
This is all your fault. Everything that is happening as we cut into this horrible scene of monstrous murder and death, that's on you, buddy. So yeah, I mean, I think you're right. He does have his moment at the end of the episode, and we like him because he's a complicated, rich character. But I don't want to let him off the hook too much.
Yeah, we're all on the same page about hating Bev, but are you brave enough to hate Father Paul?
I don't hate him, but I like he's responsible for this. This is his fault.
Yeah, no, it is that honestly. One of the funny things, I mentioned this last time, rewatching the show with my daughter and like seeing the juxtaposition of his manipulativeness in the later episodes with his apparent kindness and you know, goodness in the earlier episodes. You're just like, fuck this guy. He actually has been super manipulative this whole time. It's just, he was really good at seeming reasonable.
Yeah.
But he's complicated and he's relatable and human.
Yeah.
I mean, so is Bev to an extent. Like we all have egos. Let's like we all think that the universe is going to reward us for our unique qualities.
I am right about that, by the way.
I mean, I don't think there's any. I like it's not evil to think that, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not evil to think that you're going to be rewarded for doing good, but for Bev, that's like her whole identity is like I am doing a good job at this Catholicism thing, and that means I'm better than everyone, and I'm going to be rewarded super, super well.
Yeah,
I'm going to be in double heaven, and that's just not part of the doctrine. So
we also tend to like characters who get to learn that lesson, and we dislike characters who don't. And Father Paul's final moments is sitting on a bridge with the love of his life and his daughter, awaiting his death, saying, "Forgive me." Bev Keane's final moments is her frantically digging in the sand, fighting for that one more minute, that one more moment, while the rest of the parish has accepted death, accepted that they are going to die, and perhaps be greeted by their savior. Bev Keane, the best Christian in her eyes, still digging into the sand. There is a real moment with Bev where like she walks out to that beach like to greet the sunrise, and she looks over, and just down the beach next to her to really sell this, the blocking of this show sometimes really sells the points. She looks down, and that's where she sees Sheriff Hassan and his son sitting on the same beach. They're praying to their God, which is the same God, awaiting the sunrise and their certain death. And there's a moment where you're like, maybe Bev has finally figured it out. Maybe Bev has finally learned that we're the same, that this is all and then she starts frantically digging into the dirt, and you're like, no, she hasn't. Nope.
No. If anything, that just pushes her over the edge into like I can't accept this.
Yeah. Which, I mean, before we talk about Father Paul more, let's keep the Bev train hate going. Some of the funniest moments in this episode, in what is a very sad but profound episode, are Bev's rampant hypocrisy. Like, when she sees Hassan about to set her rec center on fire, the thing she says is, "How dare you, you viper, burn us in our own home?" And like behind her is the whole island on fire that she did.
Yeah, burned everyone in their own home. Yeah, no, fantastic. No, yeah, and then he gets his awesome gunslinger line.
Yeah,
I love that. I love every like that. That's why you and I are being kind of abstract and philosophical about this episode. Part of the reason is I can't just go through every 10-second interval of the episode and say like, and that was incredible for the following reasons.
I mean, can't we? I think we could do that.
We probably could. Yeah. I think that's called a commentary track. Is what
Sure.
that's called.
Yeah, we'll do that later.
Yeah, I'll do that later.
I did. Speaking of other Bev moments, though, of like when she walks into the church and sees Father Paul, and then she sees Mildred, and she's like, "Oh, like your ability to forgiveness is so incredible. Like not me, I couldn't do that." But she says, "If God forgive, it can forgive the weak and forgive. So who am I to judge?" She says.
You are a strong.
Still, though.
I love the delivery.
Who am I?
Still, though.
Still, no.
And then I think my favorite Bev Keane moment in the entire show. Everything is led up to this moment. Hassan has failed to light the rec center on fire. Aaron Green tries to let the rec center on fire. The vampire swoops in and carries her off. And who is there? Ali picks up that gosh, what's it called? Lighter. And we're like frozen in a moment of what's going to happen. Bev looks over to them and she goes, "Hey, boy." She doesn't know his name. She doesn't know his name. This is the person, the boy that she like, as he was like going to be the second one to take the poison, and she was like, "Look at this brave child standing up to his father. Like his love for God is so much that he's going to the father instead of his father." She made this grand gesture of it, and she doesn't even fucking know his name. That's
I love it.
Awesome. That's awesome.
I agree. It's great. Like again, very, very subtle, minor. Like that's just typifies this whole episode and really the whole show is the precision of all these little choices. It just compounds into something really special.
Yep. Let's talk about Father Paul.
Yeah.
The one thing we had not said, and honestly, probably the show had gestured towards this so deliberately over the past few episodes that we could have just said out loud, Monsignor Pruitt was in love with Mildred Gunning and Sarah Gunning was his daughter.
Mm-hmm.
We never said those words before this episode because the show never like explicitly said the words. And this is one of those weird things where had you been watching this for the first time, I'm sure you would have made that guess before now. But we had to save it till now because we kind of hedged our bets and just didn't mention it. But I think it ultimately works for me because now we get to talk about this as kind of a reveal in the final episode of not maybe necessarily the reveal that Sarah Gunning is his daughter, but his kind of moment of revelation when he says, "I did all of this. All of this was for you. It was you. Sure, help the people of this town, save these people, sure, but really, I just didn't want you to die. I just didn't want you to die, and I wanted a second chance, and I wanted to get the life that I didn't choose back." And everything else was just, and he doesn't say this, but this is the connection back to what we were talking about before, that everything else was just him couching the thing that he wanted in this greater message of what God wants and God's will. And I think that's a pretty incisive commentary on a lot of ways some Christians act sometimes, where this is what I want, but it makes me feel okay about wanting it if I hide it in God's will, and this is what God wants. Like, I don't like gay people, so I'm going to say that God doesn't like gay. It's not me. It's not me. It's God.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous. Of course it is. But it's the same kind of thing.
Yeah. I think part of what makes this scene so effective, and maybe even part of what makes us forgive Father Paul, is that his confession is sort of pathetic, like in a very human way.
Yeah.
Not only is he saying, I didn't want you to die, but he also says, if you had come to me back, 50, 40 years ago or whatever, and asked me to, I would have taken off this collar and I would have run away with you to anywhere in the world. And it's sort of like this, beautifully romantic sentiment. And she just immediately shoots him down in a very calm and centered, like not cruel,
with you anywhere in the world.
but just like that never was going to happen, and I never would have done that.
Yep.
And
I was never going to do that.
and like you kind of do see him deflate a bit, but also, number one, he knew that, and also that was decades ago, so it's water under the bridge really between them. And it's just that, but it was important to him. I think it was important for his character in that moment to sort of have this knowledge of like, look, your life was never going to be the story that you lay in bed awake, fantasizing about.
Yeah.
You were a priest. You were a humble servant of God. You lived out your life that way. And what Mildred said is like, we're supposed to get old and fade and be gone.
I love that. She grew up and we faded away, and that's how it's supposed to work. It's supposed to be over.
Yeah. I love her just sort of calmness and, again, centeredness through that whole scene. She's sort of helping him come to grips with his mistake.
Yeah.
And understand the magnitude of the mistake and understand his own motivations. And
I mean, she's doing it with grace and love and forgiveness, right? Because I mean, like, essentially he has just put a lot on her to be like, hey, all this death that's happening outside, it's you. I did that for you. Hey, I did that for you. That's a lot to put on a person. And she could just be like, hey, fuck you, buddy. But she doesn't. She handles him with grace and love, and I mean, like, even the idea of second chances, right? I really love. He says this, like, what, like a second chance is the greatest miracle of all, is what he says. And I think it's so interesting here that Pruitt wasn't given a second chance with Mildred.
But a second chance.
He took it by drugging her.
That's a miracle.
Like unbeknownst to her, right? Like this idea of like, I was given the second chance. You were given something. You foisted that upon another person without their knowledge and consent. So like, again, she is being incredibly kind and compassionate to him, given all that has transpired.
I don't want to like jerk this conversation off center, but I want to really hit on what you just said about second chances, because I noticed this structurally. We talked about Aaron and Riley also as being characters who made in very different ways, but according to their own, self-understanding, terrible mistakes. And they had come back to Crockett Island in a sense to try to find some second chance.
Yeah.
And then they die very quickly. So they don't actually, and I was thinking about that because I'm like, was that their second chance? Like they got a second chance at life, and their second chance at life was very short.
Yeah.
But it was a very meaningful and consequential. So I didn't know, that was almost like a halfway completed thought that I had that I just wanted to at least float with you.
Yeah. I mean, that's very true. I'm trying to like process this because a lot of I think you could view Hassan's move to the island as well as like his opportunity to get like a second chance and to maintain dignity while getting a second chance to do this whole police officer thing.
Mhm.
A lot of these characters, I think you could do that for.
Yeah, I think so. It was most obvious to me with Riley,
yes.
but then also like you said, that is the actual thesis statement of what Father Paul is saying to Mildred here. Like, don't we deserve a second chance? And the universe is kind of like, no one deserves anything.
Yeah.
Actually,
Uh-huh.
you get what you get. There's no fairness. The universe is not fair.
Yeah.
And just because I don't know, I think that's kind of why I'm leaving these sentences half finished, because I don't actually know what the conclusion is with this particular idea, but it's like it's like I feel it, but I don't know how to articulate it quite yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't want to say that like the show is saying that like, nope, you don't get any more chances to do anything, because I do think Riley like certainly doesn't get what he wants in the end, right? Like he that moment where he has that moment of realization with Aaron, where he's like, I'm never gonna get off this island. Like, I tried to get away, it pulled me back, and I'm never gonna get off this island. I mean, that happens. He dies on the island like he thought he was going to. But he certainly got a second chance to find purpose. Like, if we go back to the core of his character in that first episode, what he is saying is I am lost. I don't know what to do next. I feel like I have no purpose. I feel like there's no reason for me to be alive anymore. And the world, the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, gives him a purpose at the end. He gets a second chance to do something meaningful in the end. And that is kind of a second chance.
Yeah, it's not necessarily what he imagined, but it's what gives him meaning. Yeah,
well, maybe
right.
this is the thesis, right? Is like, you will get multiple chances to do something, but I think when people talk about second chances in their lives, they're talking about the Monsignor Pruitt way of second chances, which is like, I made a choice, and I now, at the end of my life, think it was the wrong choice, and I wish I could go back and make a different choice. And that's the miracle of a second chance. Whereas I think we can frame this in a godly way of a second chance, which is like, you did not do what I commanded you to do. You fucked up. And now I'm going to give you a second chance to do what I want you to do, not what you want to do. I mean, that's Jonah, right? That's Jonah is commanded to do something by God, and he says, no, bye. And he runs away, and God says, okay, big fish, gonna swallow you. And then big fish swallows him, and that Jonah says, oh, I fucked up. And he says, good, I'm letting you out of the big fish. Now, by the way, go fucking to that place and do that thing I told you to do. And Jonah's like, okay, I'll do it. Like, that's the lesson of that, right? And so maybe, and if you want to subtract God from it, you can just go to a matter of, the universe gives you second chances to do the right thing, not the thing that you want sometimes. And that's not going to feel like a second chance maybe in the moment, because often it ends in difficult, struggle, painful things for you, maybe loss, maybe death. But we think we have the ability to choose what our second chances are on. I'm making this up as I go.
I really love this, and you've helped me. You've helped me think it through quite a lot, because I just think you're right, and it ties into I mean, it's just what you said about Father Paul, and he had this vision, this fantasy, this sort of ego flattering fantasy of how I'm going to do everything the way that I want to do it, and it's going to be awesome. It's going to be what I always wanted, and in all of the ways that I wanted it to unfold. And it's like, no, man, that was never going to happen, and like, it wouldn't have even been good for you in the way that you're imagining. And this is actually a better resolution for you as a human being, tragic as it is, actually probably better for you. Anyway, I definitely seemed like an element that I don't know that we talked about specifically, so I wanted to bring out the second chances through line.
No, I love that. I think the other through line is forgiveness. Very importantly, we have that moment with him and her at the end on the bridge where he just says, he tosses his collar away and says, "Forgive me." And what I love about that is it is not necessary for us in that moment to hear her say, "Of course," or "Yes, I do," or whatever. It is enough for him to just be like, "Forgive me."
Yeah.
Yeah. And that ties into the beautiful Sturge and Uker moment at the end of the thing too, when the rec center has burned down, everyone realizes they're dead, and Sturge turns to Uker and is like, "Hey kid, you okay?" And he's like, "No, I think I killed my mom."
I don't know, but I think I killed my mom.
And he's like, "Yeah, I did some stuff too. Do you forgive me, kid?"
Done some
And
stuff
he's just like,
tonight,
"Yeah, I forgive you." And then they just like walk off, and it's just like this moment of like, and what I love about this show, to make this clear,
Will you forgive
because
me,
I think
kid?
a lot of times people talk about forgiveness, and their fear with forgiveness is that by forgiving someone you let them off the hook in some way. And I think one thing that I love about the show is it makes it clear that that's not the case, right? Like, you can love a murderer and forgive a murderer. That doesn't mean there aren't consequences for the murder. And like Uker and Sturge can look at each other and tell each other they forgive each other, but they're going to die. They're fucked. It's over for them, right? Like they don't get to escape from the consequences. Riley still went to prison. Everyone is punished for the bad things that they do. But at the end of the day, we're all human beings, and we all fuck up. We all make mistakes, and forgiveness and love are independent from justice and punishment.
Yeah. You could almost go through this last episode and you could take all these moments and say, one thing this episode is doing is it's taking these really excellent and beautiful aspects of Christianity and it's just plucking them out of the Christian context. And it's saying, like, just here's a beautiful moment of forgiveness.
Yeah.
Here's a beautiful moment of acceptance. Here's a beautiful moment of, self-acceptance, and love, and self-sacrifice, and all these things. And these people are doing them because they're the right thing to do, not because they think they're going to get rewarded. Yeah. Because in fact, in this moment, it's got nothing to do with God, and it's got nothing to do with the reward, because they're all going to die. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. There's no desperate moment of like, that's what I love is like the dogma of Catholicism in these final moments kind of drains away. There's no final moment of like, oh gosh, we better get our confession in before the sun rises, because if we don't get our confession in, then we won't go to heaven. And it's like, none of that matters anymore. It's just, let's all gather, let's love, let's sing, and let's greet our fate together.
Community, right? That's another thing is that being I think a true value the church provides, and at the end they're all standing and they're singing together, but they're not in the church, and they are singing a hymn to God, but it's them. There's no priest there leading it. It's just Annie leading it, because you could say the Holy Spirit strikes her, or it's just Annie. It's just that's who she is. Man, beautiful stuff.
It's beautiful. It's profound, and I really like the moment when the singing abruptly cuts out because they all died.
I was like waiting for the right moment to bring that up, because it's almost like it's just, and it's in mid phrase where it leaves you with a sense of ache, because there's an absence, and you don't see them all vaporize, turn into dust, and then the dust rains down, but the absence is what tells you. And that's such again like restrained and precise filmmaking. Because you could have shown that. He could have shown them all burn, and it would have been a cool visual. I
was thinking about how Flanagan talked about how much he likes silence That's what I was thinking about in that moment. And the music is great, sound is great, but sometimes the absence of that can be so profound and moving. And yeah, we immediately cut the sound out, and all we hear is the lapping of the waves. Just really, really effective stuff. I liked it.
Yeah, but the final shot where it's just the boat and the island with the sunrise and the dust and the smoke, and it just lingers there for so long.
Yeah,
I love that so much.
And then Lisa says, "I can't feel my legs."
I can't feel my legs.
And she does a little like laugh after it.
A little smile.
Yeah.
Which to me is telling us that the head vampire is dead.
Yes, that is functionally what it's doing in that moment. But it's also a moment of like things are back to the way they're supposed to be, and she has grown to appreciate that. I mean, that's our Adam and Eve. We leave like those are only two survivors is Warren and Lisa. Not sure what they're gonna do.
They're fine.
They're gonna row back to the island and call the ferry somehow.
I feel like after nobody comes to the island for a bit, they're gonna send a rescue boat.
At 30 miles, surely someone on the mainland saw this giant bonfire.
The smoke.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. The other thing I wanted to say about the ending is just like the after it cuts to the credits. This is just the correct way to do the credits, right? There's no artifice to this, but it gets to the credits and it's like directed by Mike Flanagan, written by Mike Flanagan, edited by Mike Flanagan, and you're just like, oh yeah, fuck yeah, that's gotta feel good, right? It's gotta feel good to be able to put that on that episode.
I did it,
right?
Yeah,
that fucking episode. I was just like, yes, that's incredible.
I agree. What an accomplishment! What an incredible accomplishment for him and for everyone involved.
Yeah. There's maybe a few points that we skipped over or that I didn't jump on as aggressively as I should have. But when we were talking about the center, what's it called? The community center, Bev's Emporium, fucking LLC Incorporated. Sorry, Money Laundering Incorporated. Yeah. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. Like. I love that, like, the church is obviously the place that should be the sanctuary because it's the house of God, but Bev wants it to be. She's like, no, it's going to be my building that I built to the glory of Bev.
Yeah,
I know this is like not the best Bible pull, but it reminded me of like the Pharisees and the money changers and money lenders in the temple and Jesus being pissed, and it's like, yeah, this is about your ego. This is not the house of God. You are completely like aggrandizing yourself. It's just a minor thing, but I just thought it was a great touch that she's like, the community center's got more room.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's a great kind of callback to the first episode where her and Hassan were having this argument about where the people in town will go in a storm, right? And she even says that, like, the good people of Crockett Island know where to go in a storm. It's not the church; it's her community center. Yeah. Of course, it is not. It is not a church because of poor Howard Hobbs. That poor guy who had no idea what the fuck was going on. Someone yanked him out of his house, presumably Sturge, drank his blood, turned him into a vampire, and then let him go to kill his wife and children.
I wish you
and then
God's
refused to allow him into Bev's church.
No room for him inside.
I don't even know who that actor was. I should have looked that up. Who played that guy? Like, very minor part. Didn't even exist in the show until this episode. But just, I killed my Julie tonight. What's going on? Like, he's just so, and she's so sanctimonious. And it was like, well, you could have saved him if you had just come to church. It's just like, it's the worst inclinations of people of faith, of being exclusionary and superior and sanctimonious and like,
and othering, I think, that's one thing that she does quite, increasingly so over time, is like, you're supposed to love and be open. And she's like, Muslim deserves to die, doesn't go to church enough, deserves to die. and she's actively deciding who gets to go into the building, meaning like she's just killing people.
Yeah.
And she knows this is like the true death, right? So it's like even within her own twisted mind, where it's like, well, they've been given the gift. They've been given the gift of eternal life, but I don't like them, so they can't come in.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, holy shit.
Yeah. So much for God's plan, right? Like if God wanted you to be saved, you like she even says you were given a blessing, but no, fuck you. I don't like you.
Yeah. It's Sturge is a character we don't talk about a lot because, you know, he doesn't talk a lot. It's easier to talk about a character if they share their soul with you. But like in the background, we've watched this guy who was just like a quietly faithful, helpful guy, just in many ways a quiet pillar of the community. Was you know, browbeaten into covering up the murder of Ed. Is that his name? What's wrong with me?
Joe Colley?
Joe.
Yeah.
Joe. I knew it was like a one syllable name, Joe. And then just like he didn't put up much of a fight either, though, right? Like he didn't really dig in his heels very much when it came to hiding a dead body, right? So and now this has happened, and he clearly regrets how far this has gone. But like he was just a guy who went along with things. And then that's where this led him. And I don't know, there's just something like quietly tragic about this character, because it's like, he could have lived out his whole life and just been like a happy, normal guy who just was good and helpful, and just bad luck, I guess, you know? I don't know. It's kind of...
Yeah, I mean, like it definitely, like you see him try to stand up to Bev in a few moments of like even when we're talking about Howard Hobbs, where he's like, come on, Bev, like he was always nice to me. And then she just like gives him a look, and he just proceeds to take Howard down to the beach where he's going to die. And so it's like, you really want him to be like, come on, man. Like,
yeah.
And he just never does it.
It's not really until the very end when it's too late to do anything anyway.
Yeah.
And he's like, there's nowhere else to go. And then he just walks away.
Yeah.
But that's not much of an achievement.
Well, no. And like, yeah, like he's responsible for this. Like he has as much responsibility as Bev does, as Wade does, as Dolly does. Like, and he will pay for what he did. He dies. But you're like, oh man, this is sad. I feel bad for you guys.
Of, you know, one important element of this episode as we're wrapping up is like Wade and you know, Lisa's parents kind of chasing her across the island in slow motion.
Yeah.
And the tragedy of like, they really, really want to find their daughter. They love their daughter. But gradually kind of maybe realizing like, this is not what we thought it was.
Yeah.
And, you know, Lisa running from them, even when they're just like, you know, more calmly being like, Lisa, where are you? And you know, she's terrified running from them.
Yeah.
I just thought that was really effective.
Well, and remember, these are two people that existed for their daughter, right? They spent all their money for her care. They are barely subsisting in this world to take care of their daughter. Their whole existence revolves around their daughter. And then, yeah, like they kind of get swept up into things and yeah, they're looking for Lisa. But there is that moment when they've called by the bell that Bev rings. And once the center starts burning down, they're like, wait a minute, we should be looking for Lisa. What are we doing? Lisa. Yeah. Like it's the way Wade Scarborough says it, like, I think it's Dolly first that says we should be looking for Lisa, and he's like, yeah.
Let's go find Lisa.
And then he kind of gives Bev a look and says Lisa, as if to say like, this is what this was all about, actually. And I've forgotten that, actually.
Yeah. I love that. I agree. I love that moment. Yeah.
I do just want to hit the beat of like Bev deciding to burn everything down because of revelation is like we said, it's a Tolkienian evil finds a way to defeat itself. Now it needs a little help from good, but the reason they are successfully able to kill all the vampires is because they burned everything down except for this one building, and the good guys just take it the rest of the way.
Yeah, there's kind of a beautiful symmetry to the idea that like the vampires set the fire on one end of the island, and then the good guys set the fire starting from the other end of the island, so that it basically burns the whole island, and then the rec center being the last bit. I love that. I just the vampire glowing eyes thing.
We haven't talked about that much. Yeah,
it's just really cool. I love that about the show, that there's no fangs. There's no real like setting aside the angel. There's no real overt supernatural stuff at all. Like, it's not like we see the vampires really exhibiting super strength. I think there's an implication that maybe they're stronger than normal people, but they're not doing jumpy jumps or anything. They're just overpowering people.
Yep.
And it's just the eyes, and that's very eerie and cool, and like just think how the show would hit just a little bit different if everybody got fangs. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It would seem a little over the top to me in the world of the show, but the eyes are such an effective and small little affect, and like the show can use them because it's like it's not, their eyes aren't always like that, right? It's inconsistent in a cool way that I think allows the show to pick and choose the moments that we want to see the eyes as otherworldly. Like, one of the scenes I'm thinking of is that confrontation between Bev and Monsignor Pruitt, where she says, "Get thee behind me." In that moment, as they're making the argument against each other, there are several moments where we cut to Bev and her eyes are vampiric, but his eyes never are in that scene. And I think it just allows us to visually draw the comparison between the two sides there. And then, of course, the wonderful moment of when he says, "No, we got this wrong. We're the wolves." And we cut to the vampire slowly climbing up the hill to the church, and they're all have the vampire eyes. So it's just like, it's an affect that is just enough to get you a little bit more, but it never steps over a line into like absurd.
Yeah. I distinctly remember being blown away by that image of all the vampires coming up toward them and just seeing the dots of light in their eyes from a distance. And
we got this wrong.
Yeah.
You sure did. So you sure did, Father. Yeah. But speaking of Father, I really love that line that Bev throws at him in the middle of this whole thing, which is a quote from the Bible. I'm trying to find it as I scroll, but I believe it's something to the effect of like, "Do not call any man father, for you have one Father," which is a line from Matthew. I think he also says, "Don't call any man rabbi, for there's only one. Do not call any man teacher." So like, I think you can say he's not like literally saying you're not allowed to use the word father because there's only one God. But I do think it's pretty ironic that the Catholic Church decided to call priests father.
Yeah,
given this line.
Definitely. Yeah. And it's just funny because it's so convenient for her, because she has endorsed his power and his role for her entire life. Yep. Until this moment where now it is inconvenient. And now it's like, you know what? The whole concept of a priesthood is illegitimate, actually. Yeah. And it's like, you're just saying that because you disagree with him.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great.
Can I tell you the one part of this episode I didn't like? There's only one.
Okay.
It's small and insignificant, doesn't matter. This is a perfect episode of television. It's one of my favorite show of all time, except for this one little tiny thing.
I forgive you.
Thank you. So I love Aaron cutting through the wings of the angel. I think it's really effective. It's also kind of, I think, a callback to the wings of the dove.
Oh my God.
Right? I think so.
Totally.
Yeah.
100 million%.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I might. Yeah. You're right. It is. Clipping the wings.
I think that's really cool. I like it. It's effective. The only part about it I don't like is as the angel flies away, we cut to Warren and Lisa in the boat.
Running.
And we have this conversation that is like, "Do you think it can make it before sunrise?
Do you think it can make
30
it?
miles? That thing can
Before
barely
sunrise?
fly." No, I don't think it can.
30 miles.
And that is the only bit of dialogue that to me feels like
They can barely fly it.
it's like a note. or it's covering something, or like
I
it
don't
feels
think it-
like the show is not trusting us.
So it's just kind of interesting to me. Do you think it would be better if, you know, one of the two kids said, "Do you think it can make it?" And then they just kind of like worriedly looked at each other, and then we just kind of like went on with stuff? Or would, because the reason I say that is like I think I would like that, because then it would leave us with a like, oh, we're supposed to worry about this, and I just don't know. And then it's only the real final resolution, the final moment where she says that she can't feel her legs, that you have confidence that it's dead. But I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I would like it better that way. It just feels like we cut to them in that moment. That's the only bit of the scene, and we talked about that moment when they're in the house, and the point of the scene is to set up this idea that this thing is going to keep eating no matter what you do to it, which is really important to the Aaron scene paying off. But we didn't feel like that scene was constructed to do just like, it felt like the natural evolution. They're running around town. They hide in here. They hide in this building that happens to be where the monster is. And it's a wonderful tension scene. And I really do like it. This is just, they're on the boat. We cut to them on the boat. They read these two little lines of exposition to establish what is going to happen now after Aaron did what she did. And then we move on from them. This is not a huge complaint. It's just like the only moment of the show where I was just like, like, there's part of me that wonders if, like, you can almost see it in the writing room, right? Where you're like, all right, Aaron has this wonderful moment that I think is a callback to the dove. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think, we have a character talking about clipping wings, and then that's her final act. So, she does that. We see the alien, I keep on to call it alien. I don't know why. We see the vampire flying, like getting up there and struggling to fly. And they're sitting in the writer's room talking about this. And then like someone in the room is like, is it going to be clear to people why that thing that just happened is a good thing for the future of the world? Are we going to be able to convey that visually in a way that makes it clear this is what happened, and this is why that's good?
Yeah.
And maybe they just started to doubt themselves a little bit. It was like, I think so.
Yeah.
Maybe we just better put some dialogue in there to make that clear.
It's hard to know what's going to land with people, right? Like, this is always, we've witnessed this with other, stuff that we've covered, where it's like, look, even if like, I'm going to go all mathy on you here and say, like, if 90% of people get each of the, like I'm going to try to get 10 things across, and there's a 90% chance that your average viewer is going to understand each of them individually, then actually almost everybody's going to miss one of them.
Sure.
And a lot of people are going to miss several of them. So you got to be really sure, actually. Like you got to be, so sometimes stuff that feels like over explaining, if you already got it, it's like, look, a lot of people didn't. So and there's no right answer. There's no like exactly right setting for that knob. So I guess I just have like some understanding.
Sure.
But I mean, it's all like what we've said before. Everything is contrived, right? Anyway, I get where you're coming from, though. Like it does feel like it does feel more like exposition maybe than than almost anything else in this episode.
And I have the utmost amount of sympathy, because I agree with you. You're trying to tune that knob, and the most difficult part about it is you don't get feedback on how you tuned it until it's too late. Yeah. Like you don't know. You just don't know. And like maybe that's what you have other people read it, and that's why you have a writer's room, so you can bounce these ideas off of each other and make sure that other people are understanding what you're going for, and you hope that allows you to tune the knob a little bit. But yeah, to your point, 10 writers in a writer's room might all be like, yeah, no, that's totally obvious. But like a average everyday TV viewer that probably has their phone out for half of the episode. Yeah.
There's also the matter of pacing, where it's like if too much time has passed since this concept was introduced, then you got to have somebody maybe just kind of say like, hey, remember this thing? And because otherwise you just forget.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I completely made up a scene in my head in which we see the vampire at the end of the show desperately trying to fly towards the shore, and the sun comes out and hits him and he turns to dust.
Interesting.
I had absolutely convinced myself that that was the final moments of the show, to the point where the first time I watched it last week, I was like, we hit credits and I was like, oh, maybe it's like a mid-credits thing. And I fast forwarded through the credits and I was like, did I just completely make this up in my head? I must have.
Yeah. You're thinking of the shot where the lava hits the Nazgul. No, that's great. Yeah. I mean, I've definitely done that, by the way, like with other stuff where I'm just like, well, it's like the, stuff that is implied but not shown, you fill it in, which is what Flanagan has talked about, actually.
Yeah. And maybe, like, look, there's also just like practicality of filmmaking sometimes. Maybe they're like, so we've ran out of money. You had this one more effect shot in your show, which is the master vampire dying. We can't do that one. Sorry, we're out of money. Isn't there any way we can just like make that clear without showing it? And that ends up maybe being that, like, to be clear here, I do love the moment of I can't feel my legs being the moment of that is what we're saying is the vampire is dead. We've won. I love that. I just don't know how I felt about that. Those two lines of dialogue in 7 episodes that I think are some of the greatest television of all time. There were 2 lines of dialogue that I was just like, eh.
Yeah. I think that's fine.
Yeah.
I wanted to share a small moment. It was a great kids say the darndest things moment that happened tonight. Okay, just before coming down here, I was watching episode 5 with my daughter.
Okay,
and my son, who's not watching the show with us, kind of goes through the room, and first he goes, "Is this show like about religion?" And me and my daughter look at each other and we go, "Yeah, a little bit." And then he's kind of like watching, and then he's like, "Is Christianity canon in this?" And I love this because I was like, not only is that the best phrasing possible,
that's such a Freeman thing to say. Like, y'all have no idea.
Well, he's my son.
Yeah.
But I was like, that's exactly what you and I talk about so much. Is like, is God real? Is Christianity canon in Midnight Mass? And I was like, I can't answer that. And he was like, that means it's yes.
Yeah.
And I was like, no comment.
But I mean, anyway. Ultimately, to maybe bring this, I love that, by the way. That's wonderful. I'm very proud of your son. I think that's what's so wonderful about this show. We talked about this every episode throughout, and at the end, we don't have any answers.
Yeah.
Is there a God? The show is not going to answer that question for you. What happens when we die? The show's not going to answer that question for you. Not really. We see Aaron's viewpoint of it, which I think matches with Mike Flanagan's viewpoint of it. But I think the key message for the theming of the show is not that is a definitive answer about our death, but it is a possible answer to our life, which is that we are all connected. All of us. Everything is connected. All of us. I am that I am. And I am God. You are God. We are all the cosmos. We are all the universe. But it doesn't have, outside of that, like, there's no easy answers to any of this stuff. We're having a pastor on the show next week, so strap in, folks. We're going to get some answers. I told him I'm asking him all the tough questions, so we're gonna get some definitive answers on this stuff now. I joke, of course, because there is no answer. There is no answer. And the best the show can do is show that. And ultimately, that's what it shows, is everyone who is certain about what is or is not the will of God is wrong in this show. And everyone who is struggling and unsure and doesn't know ends up being right.
Yeah. I love that. It's great.
What a show. What a great show. We'll maybe circle back around to this next week, but I went to this thing going, Midnight Mass, Hill House, they're pretty close. My two favorite Flanagan things. I love The Haunting of Hill House. Haunting of Hill House is a great show. Midnight Mass is a masterpiece.
Yeah.
That's what I think right now. It's not even close. It's one of the greatest 7 episodes of television I've ever consumed and really studied. And looking at it harder and longer has only reinforced that to me.
Right, especially after this rewatch. I mean, I already thought of it as like one of my favorite things.
Yeah.
But after this, it's ranked up even higher in that, whatever that ranking is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually why I decided like I've got to watch this with my my one kid that I think is old enough to kind of metabolize it properly, because it's like, this is just some of the best art that I'm aware of, and I know that she'll appreciate it and that we'll have a great time talking about it. And and it's been great. Yeah.
Question. I maybe I don't want to ask you this because we just ended on something really profound, and this is a stupid comment I'm about to make, but remember when Bev is like, I would never hurt the children, but she just threw a Molotov cocktail into a house that she knew the children were in? And
she's
vampires notoriously flammable.
Yeah. I mean, so this is kind of a subtle element of the show that is hard to pick up on, but
okay.
Bev is the worst.
Oh, you know,
Yeah.
I see. Okay. I gotcha.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
Okay.
What I guess what if like Warren and Lisa were actually like trapped in a house that burned up, would they come back?
I mean, I highly suspect they would not, like, and then they would burn to death when the sun rose anyway. But like,
Yeah.
I think if they burned up their bodies, I don't think they would come back.
Yeah.
I mean, the show doesn't really care about this question because it never comes up, but
It ultimately doesn't matter, but it's just like more of her hypocrisy of like, I was never going to hurt the children. I just threw a bottle of alcohol lit on fire into your front window, but I was never going to hurt the children.
Yeah, she's just totally deranged by this point.
Yeah.
So
Also, like the insistence of her calling Sheriff Hassan a terrorist over and over and over again. Once again, after she has lit the entire town on fire, just delightful.
And killed tons of people for her in her religious, jihad. You could say. I mean, it's she's the worst.
When she says tainted blood, like when he's bleeding and he sees her looking at the blood and says, "Oh, are you hungry?" She's like, "Tainted blood," and he just kind of like he's just like even now, with this fucking bullshit.
I know. I love that. Like, I love his reaction there, where he's just like, perfect. That's perfect. It's the perfect thing for you to say here, Bev.
Yeah.
God.
To try to bring it back to the profound, I do want to say one more thing before we end, which is there's a moment in this episode where I think this is when Sarah and Aaron and Hassan are getting the gasoline to burn the boats. And Sarah says to Aaron,
I hope the kids made it to the boat.
I hope the kids get out okay.
I hope so too.
We're never going to know if they got out, are we? And Aaron's like, no,
We're
not.
Gonna know, are we?
And Sarah basically just says, they did.
They did.
I'm deciding they did. That's faith.
I'm deciding
That's what that is. That's faith.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be, that's the power of faith. It doesn't have to be faith in God. It just is like, I am going to choose to believe something that I couldn't ever possibly know. I'm going to choose to do that.
Thank you for reminding me of that, because I was trying to find all the moments where we had like some element of a beautiful piece of Christian, dogma that was dissociated from Christianity. And that's perfect, because she's not a believer, but she is the one who is having faith.
Yeah.
Which is what makes it distinct and beautiful.
That is what, I mean, this is an incredibly Christian story, but I think that is true, that all of the incredible, wonderful, powerful parts of Christianity Mike Flanagan is like independently pulling free of Catholicism, of Christianity, and just representing on their own as just human and beautiful. And I love that.
I love that it's her saying it, because she's actually been the more rationalistic one who's trying to reduce the vampirism to a virus.
Yeah.
And then she's the one who says, no, I choose to believe that I'm deciding that they're okay.
Yeah.
And that, like you said, there's no rational basis for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's great.
And I as a follow-up to that, I really do love the moment where she's shot and is dying, and Pruitt, in his desperation, tries to feed her his blood, and she just spits it out. I love that moment.
Yeah.
She's like, no,
Me too.
no, I do not choose that.
Yep. I love it.
Okay. I think I'm finally done.
Okay. All right. Let's get on into our discussion question.
All right.
So last week's question was, what was your favorite vampire death?
It was a trick, because the answer is when all the vampires die in this episode. We tricked you.
We did. All right. So Pear Jane says, Scott rudely stole my answer of the Buffy movie.
Have you, by the way, since I said that, watched that scene? I'm going to send it to you if you haven't.
The Buffy movie scene?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. I'll send it to you.
Okay. So I'm going with a wicked awesome vampire death that would justify the 6 hours I spent watching broody teenagers if it had been a thing that actually happened in the movie. Spoilers for Twilight. In the big final battle, the always delightful Michael Sheen's queen vampire, Aro, leaps in the air and rips the goddamn head off Carlisle, the father figure of the Cullens. It's fucking awesome. It's utterly shocking, and Arrow is deeply pleased with himself in the way only Michael Sheen can be, and it's so violent and fucking awesome. I mean, he rips his head off. And then there's a raging battle that's also violent and pretty fantastic, and then we find out none of it ever actually happened, and everyone is fine, and they all go home in peace, and that is why Twilight is lame.
I know I've talked to you about this scene on the podcast before, Matt. But to reiterate it, I was dating a girl who liked the Twilight movies. I had never seen any of them. I went with her to see this movie, and I got to this scene and I was like, holy shit, this is amazing. And it was, the biggest letdown in the world, that it was just a dream.
And apparently none of that was in the book. So I think, probably was a clue to the book readers. But anyway.
All right, next we have BC Johnson, who says there's a certain Buffy the Vampire, there's a certain vampire in Buffy that has an awesome heroic death via becoming an undead disco ball, but it's too spoilery to discuss. So I'll go with the Lost Boys, the famous death by stereo scene. Sam fires an arrow that launches the home invading vamp into the enormous stereo setup, causing him to be electrocuted and then explode, all the soundtrack of the dying stereo blasting at full volume. The dialogue between the shots sells it too. Vampire, you missed. Sam, only once, pal. Looses arrow. It's great.
Cool.
You still haven't seen The Lost Boys.
Yeah, okay.
It's been 5 years. 6 years. It's been 6 years.
You saw me visibly avoiding saying that, and then you were like,
I got to do it.
That was great.
It's God's will that you watch The Lost Boys.
It is. I have to.
Mm-hmm.
All right. The Charbear 14 says, my favorite vampire death is Claudia's death in Interview with the Vampire. Both the movie, show, and book all write and portray her death in a very tragic way. However, I'm going to say that Kirsten Dunst's performance is still the best version. You know she's definitely going to die, but the fact that it is slowly inching its way toward her, and the fact that Madeline is doing her best to protect her vampire daughter, despite the fact there's nothing that either of them can do, is one of the most heartbreaking deaths in any vampire media I've ever seen. And that includes Erin's heartbreaking screams as she watches Riley burn alive in front of her.
I agree with that. I think I liked the book Interview with the Vampire better than the Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise movie. But I think the Claudia death worked for me better in the movie than it did the book.
Because in the book, we
don't even see it.
See
you
it.
see the aftermath of it, but you don't see it. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's all from Louis' perspective.
Yeah. Kid's Kitchen says, one of my favorite vampire deaths is the way the True Knot dies in the Dr. Sleep movie. Flanagan loves to kill and maim in interesting ways. The steam suckers flash and groan and suffer, and then poof, they're all steam. It's oddly satisfying to see something ancient finally lose its grip on the world. I hope you don't rest in peace, Grandpa Flick, you skanky old piece of crap.
Love it.
Love it.
Yeah, that's a fun element of that movie.
Mm-hmm.
They also kind of do the luminous eyes.
Yeah.
But I really like in Midnight Mass how it's subtle. I mean, that movie calls for a lot more bombast, right?
Sure.
It's a lot more kind of overtly supernatural. Anyway, I'm not. Yeah. House of Seven Paws says in True Blood season 1, episode 9, the death of Long Shadow. It's funny. My brain read True Blood as True Detective, and I was like, "There's vampires in True Detective." No, True Blood. There's nothing special about the character or how he's killed. It's just that that's the first time we see what a vampire dying looks like in the show, and they really milk the hilarious grossness of it. He's been staked while attacking Suki, and at first he stays standing over her and spraying a gallon of blood out of his mouth for a solid 10 seconds. So first-time viewers at this point are probably thinking, okay, when vampires die, they throw up some blood, and then they probably shrivel up into a husk or disappear in a cloud of dust like they did on Buffy, or burn up and then disappear in a cloud of dust like they did in Blade. Turns out the vampires in this show are entirely made out of blood. So the moment of actual death, we see the guy turn into 180 pounds of liquid gore hitting the floor and splashing all over everyone. It really emphasizes that killing a vampire in this world, unlike the TV version of Buffy, is a big, messy deal that you can't easily move on from or cover up, and also that all these sexy characters the show is inviting you to leer at are really globs being barely held together into those nice shapes. Fascinating.
I love that.
Well, obviously, I'm going to give my answer, and then we can go into the finale. It's obviously the end of Blade 2. When the super vampire is stabbed in the heart by Blade after a long fight involving a suplex, and Blade like jumping off of the wall and like pile driving him with his elbow, and then he goes, it hurts no more, and then dies, and it's great.
See, this is why you watch Midnight Mass and go, I wish Annie turned into a vampire and had an epic vampire fight with Bev Keane.
No, there's something wrong with me. I know.
I'm glad we're all on the same page there.
Yeah. All right, just to quickly go through everybody else's, and thank you for your contributions as always. Busy Dad 82 says Baron Afanas accidentally exposed sunrise by their familiar in What We Do in the Shadows.
Yeah, that's Guillermo, who people have told me I sound like, which I never have seen. Sure. I mean, Guillermo's great, but
cool.
I don't think so.
I don't know. Alan the Alien 93 says that Nosferatu vampire overtaken by an animalistic thirst and unable to defend themselves. Harmonic Pies says Kurt Barlow's teeth from Salem's Lot squirming in the hand still trying to bite. Is that in the book? Man, we read that book. Hans Baca R23PO says Detlaf boss fight in Witcher 3. Cool.
Sweet.
Baby King You Digger Sam says Evil Ed's heartbreaking death in the original Fright Night with great makeup effects. RL Raider says Deacon Frost's poorly aged CGI death in Blade after thinking he could ice skate uphill. Yes, RL Raider, you're right. That was the second best vampire death of all time. Steve Living Room CO says Queen of the Damned killing her husband and empowering Lestat in the book, apparently not in the movie. Mm-hmm. Aqua Lungfish says John Carpenter's Vampires dragging vampires into the sun. The movie, I guess, is Vampires. Dragging vampires into the sun with Jeep winch burning like Roman candles. Cool. Don Zest says Dracula, Resurrection, and Re-Death on the NES Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest.
Hell yeah.
Mary Liz 19 says Remic's death in Sinners with the guitar stuck in his head.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that was a pretty sick one, actually. I agree. Dura Longbeard says Vorador beheading in Legacy of Kain. Cool.
Hell yeah. I never played that game. I don't know what
Okay. Jiminy's Journal saying in the Doctor Who State of Decay, where they kill a giant vampire with a rocket ship as a steel rod. Okay.
Cool. That's a lot of vampire deaths.
Yeah, I got a lot of interest in this one, interestingly.
Well, thank you everyone for sending those in. We are not going to have a discussion question on this week's episode because the episode we'd answer this one on will be our episode covering the Midnight Club. It'll be our first episode covering, I believe it'll be the one covering the novel, Christopher Pike's The Midnight Club. So we will kind of break here and not do discussion questions for a few weeks, and then catch up with that in our next show.
Yep.
But that's going to do it for us, and that's going to do it for Midnight Mass. Well, except for our one final episode. We're doing our overview episode next week. We talked a lot about big picture stuff this week, but I think we'll revisit some of that next week. And then, of course, we'll be joined by a pastor to talk a little bit about God a little bit and what he sees in this show and what he took out of the show, because I know he very much enjoyed the show, and I'm really actually very excited to talk to someone that knows what they're talking about when they talk about the Bible, because I don't. And I told him, please feel free to point out all the places in which I was completely wrong in my analysis. So I'm looking forward to that. I think it's going to be a fun conversation.
Yeah, me too. Remember, you can reach us via email at flanagan'swakepod@gmail.com or on X at flanagan'swake19. The best place to answer the discussion question is the subreddit at reddit.com/r/doofmedia. Also, don't forget that every episode can be found on YouTube and Spotify in video format. So if you're watching on one of those channels, please leave us a comment and let us know what you think.
Yeah, and if you want to get some merch, if you're sad that we are leaving behind Midnight Mass, which we are, so I can't believe it's over, Matt. It's not technically over. We got the one episode left, but it's coming to an end, and I can't believe it. But if you want to commemorate Midnight Mass with some merchandise, you can head over to doofmedia.myshopify.com for a Crockett Island Cat Cafe mug. I love that mug so much. I wish I had it here, but it's delightful. It's delightful.
Yeah, me too.
And of course, a bunch of other shirts, mugs, wall art. You have a beautiful version of Bly Manor drawn by Eliza right behind me that I love. It's so good. You can get all of that over at doofmedia.myshopify.com.
Yeah, and if you like any of our shows and you want to support them, then please consider donating to our Patreon at patreon.com/doofmedia. Scott put some content over there on the Patreon just earlier this week. So
yeah,
a lot of cool stuff there. Episode of our From podcast just came out relatively recently.
Yeah, we're doing a really good job of hitting those every other week. So yeah, check that out. I'm very proud of us, Matt. I'm very proud of we set a goal for ourselves and we're doing it so far. I mean, granted, it's a month and a half into the year, so there's a lot to go, but I think we're doing it. So yeah, I mean, I will really emphasize to you folks, if like you want to make sure you're caught up on what's going on, if we happen to do like bonus one-off things like the 15 minutes I threw out there earlier this week, subscribe to the Patreon. If you can't afford to do it monetarily, do it for free, and then you'll make sure you never miss anything.
Yep.
And please, while you're doing that, go to a different website and leave us a rating and a review. I feel like I'm watching, there's this thing happening, Matt, where like Apple Podcasts used to like rule the podcast space. And I feel like that's slowly going down. I'm like watching our numbers kind of shift away from Apple Podcasts. But if you're still an Apple Podcast user and want to leave us a rating and a review there, we certainly would appreciate it. If you listen on Audible, you can leave a rating and a review there. If you listen on Spotify, you can leave a rating. You can't really leave reviews, but do that. We just can't read them out loud because there's no review. But you can comment on Spotify and on YouTube and all those good places.
Yeah, I think it's because the Apple Podcast app sucks.
Oh, it does suck. It's horrible. It's the worst.
Yeah.
But I've been using the Spotify app recently, and like that's not great either.
Yeah.
It's better, but it's not great.
They've all got issues as far as I can tell.
Yeah. But if you cannot or do not want to support us on Patreon, just leave those rating and reviews. I haven't gotten to read a new one in a while, Matt, and I'm pretty sad about it.
Yeah, we've had to burn so many books.
Nobody understands that joke. That was the other show.
Oh, that was the other show. Well, regardless,
we threatened to burn Stephen King novels when we didn't have a review to read. Is the joke?
Yeah. And we had to burn a few.
We did.
Yeah.
Cujo, it's gone.
Yeah,
can't read it
gone.
anymore.
Yep.
All right, folks, we will see you back here next week for our overview episode. Until then, enjoy the sunrise, Mr. Flanagan.